Welcome to Fueling Success, 3 methods to fast track improved learning retention. Are you tired of wasting resources on your organization's training that reaps very little or seemingly no rewards? Well, you're right to feel frustrated, and you're not alone. In 2021, the average cost to train team members was $1,280 per employee, and the retention rates are staggering. The first hour after training is complete, only half of the content is remembered, meaning half is forgotten. 24 hours after training, 70% is forgotten. And 6 days after training, less than 1 week, 75% or three-fourths of what the employee was supposed to learn is forgotten. That equates to losing an average of $960 per trained team member. Thankfully, there are ways to reverse those averages. First, let me introduce myself. I'm Brandy Dykert, and I've been helping team members reach their professional goals for over 20 years in industries varying from financial services to healthcare. Currently, I'm the Director of Instructional Design at Mercury Performance Group, where we focus on employee empowerment to help companies thrive. Thank you so much for pressing the play button. I guarantee you won't regret it. Here's what you can expect from your organization after you become the hero and implement the 3 ways to fast track learner retention that I'm going to teach you today. First off, excitement about the learning programs your L&D group offers, because you're going to have fresh ideas to prompt learners to engage in the learning process actively rather than passively consuming information. Next, team members who are more self aware, have broader critical thinking, and are more adaptable to change because you're going to have ways to implement intentional self reflection as part of your learning and development programs. And finally, after our time together, your organization will have a learning culture that is harmonious and values continuous learning, knowledge sharing, collaboration, and accountability. Do those sound like ways you could be the hero in your organization? Well, let's jump into it. Before I teach you the 3 methods, let's quickly cover why our clients at Mercury Performance Group think it's one of the most important things in their L&D arsenal. Learning retention is the ability to recall and use the knowledge or skills you've learned, no matter how much time has passed. First, recalling information is the most basic form of learning retention. It's the ability to remember facts, concepts, or procedures you've been taught. For example, if you learn that Paris is the capital of France, you should be able to recall this fact whenever you're asked. True learning retention transcends time. This means that the ability to remember information isn't limited to a short period after you've learned it, like an exam. Instead, you can recall it weeks, months, or even years later. Learning retention becomes truly powerful when it's not just about recalling information, but also about using it effectively. This means applying the knowledge or skills you've learned in new and different situations. So, if you've learned customer service skills, you'll be able to use those skills to solve real-world problems that require customer service. As you continue to use the knowledge or skills you've learned, they should get stronger. This is a key part of learning retention. For instance, if you've learned a new language, the more you practice and use it, the more fluent you become. Learning retention also involves combating the forgetting curve, a concept coined by German psychologist Hermann Ebbinghaus. This curve shows how information is lost over time when there is no attempt to retain it. Effective learning strategies can slow down this curve and ensure better retention. Now that we have a better understanding of what learning retention is, let's discuss why it's important. Learning retention is important because we're able to make more informed decisions, be more efficient at problem solving, and contribute more effectively to our roles. We become more adaptable by applying new information and remaining relevant, which also allows us to focus on more advanced training and professional growth. And as employees grow, the empowerment and satisfaction they feel grows. The bottom line is affected when increasing learning retention because the number needing retraining decreases, which saves the organization money. And the more team members retain, the stronger the interim effect becomes, which is when an organization's high performers pave the way for mid level performers to grow. If you want to learn more about the interim effect, at the end of this webinar is the link to view a video about it. So, why aren't team members retaining the information they're supposed to be learning and training? Here are several factors to consider and identify if your programs could improve in these areas. If you answer no to any of these questions, you've identified reasons why your organization suffers from low learning retention. Relevancy. Is the content relevant and learners can apply what they're learning to their job duties? Interaction. Is content non-lecture based and provides learners with opportunities to practice what they're learning or to interact with the facilitator and each other? Or if it's e-learning, do team members have opportunities to interact with the content? Learning culture. Does your organization's learning culture encourage collaboration, information sharing, and continuous learning? Developed with learning styles in mind. Are learning programs developed in ways that accommodate limited learning styles and cognitive abilities? Follow-up and accountability. Do post-learning plans include opportunities to apply what was learned, as well as resources and accountability for improvement? Now that you have an idea of why your organization is experiencing low retention, let's move on to why you are all here, to discover solutions. I promise we're going to discuss the three methods soon. But first, I want to lay a foundation for the first method by explaining the learning pyramid. The learning pyramid was first introduced by the American educator Edgar Dale. It's divided into 3 tiers and provides a visual and percentages of retention based on learning activity. Tier 1 includes verbal reception for reading, hearing, and seeing. Tier 2 includes demonstrative receptions, including watching a video, viewing an exhibit, and live instruction. Tier 3 includes active participation, including hands-on, role-playing, simulation, and performance. You'll notice how retention increases as cognitive stimulation increases. For example, in Tier 1, verbal reception, there's only 10% retention when learners only read text, 20% retention when listening to lectures, and 30% retention when viewing images of what the content is teaching. Those learning activities work well when the learning objectives are to only describe, explain, list, or define a concept. Tier 3 is all about participation. These learning activities provide a perform as you learn approach, which creates experiential successes and failures that participants will remember and learn from. They include hands-on workshops, role-play scenarios, and real-life simulations and applications. The highest retention is achieved when team members can perform the relevant tasks. Now that you have an idea of how learning activities impact learning retention, let's identify exactly how you can fast-track maximizing the effectiveness of your organization's training and development efforts with these 3 methods: active learning, self-reflection, and learning culture. Let's dive a little deeper into each of these. First off, let's talk about active learning. Active learning needs to focus on strategies that prompt learners to engage in the learning process actively, rather than passively consuming information. The goal is to encourage higher order thinking skills like analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. Some examples of what can be incorporated into your learning and development programs include working in teams to complete a project, which encourages learners to apply what they've learned, solve problems collaboratively, and engage in meaningful discussions. Case studies are real-world examples that learners can examine and discuss, which fosters critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Role-playing scenarios can be a fun and effective active learning activity where learners take on roles and discuss how to best address concepts being learned. Educational games provide a fun and competitive way to apply knowledge and engage in problem solving. Think, pair, share. In this activity, the facilitator poses a question or problem to the class. Learners first think about their response individually, then pair up to discuss their ideas, and finally share their thoughts with the whole class. Peer teaching is when learners prepare and deliver a lesson to their colleagues on a given topic. This helps deepen their understanding of the topic, practice communication skills, and learn from each other. Problem based learning, or PBL, is when employees learn about a subject by working in groups to solve an open ended, real world problem that requires them to apply their knowledge, research, and critical thinking skills. Remember, the key to successful active learning is to ensure activities are structured, relevant, and engage learners in thoughtful and reflective learning. The activities should motivate learners to interact with the content, their peers, and the facilitator. Next, let's focus on the second method to fast track learning retention. Plan time for self reflection. Self reflection, or the process of thinking deeply about one's own learning, helps individuals understand what they've learned, how they've learned it, and how they can apply this knowledge in the future. It promotes active engagement with the material, leading to deeper understanding and improved retention. By reflecting, learners can understand their learning style better, identify areas where they excel, and uncover areas for improvement, guiding them to focus more on those areas and enhancing learning outcomes. Reflection helps learners connect and build on new information, which aids in long term memory storage and retrieval. When learners reflect on what they've learned, they gain a deeper understanding of the material. They're not just memorizing facts, they're considering the how and why behind the information. Self reflection also enhances problem solving abilities. By reflecting on how they approached a problem and the result they achieved, learners can identify more effective strategies for the future. Reflection turns learners from passive recipients of information into active participants in their own learning process. Self reflection cultivates skills such as self awareness, critical thinking, and adaptability. So, as they move through different stages of life, these skills can help them continually adapt and grow. Finally, the third method to fast track retention. Let's chat about how a learning culture that promotes continuous learning, knowledge sharing, collaboration, and accountability can significantly enhance learning retention. This approach encourages learners to view learning as an ongoing, never ending process. It helps reinforce and build upon existing knowledge and encourages learners to stay updated and continually adapt to new information or changes in their industry. When learners share what they've learned with others, they not only help their peers, but also reinforce their own understanding. Explaining a concept to someone else requires a clear grasp of the material, which enhances retention. Also, receiving information from peers provides different perspectives, which assists in grasping and retaining complex concepts. Working together in a team promotes active engagement with the material, allowing learners to discuss, debate, and problem solve collectively, deepening their understanding and helping to imprint the information more firmly in their memory. Accountability in learning comes from structured assessments, peer feedback, and self reflection. This encourages learners to take ownership of their learning process. And when learners are accountable, they're more likely to engage more deeply with the material and strive to understand and remember it. Overall, a positive learning culture, one that values and supports all these practices, can make learning a more enjoyable and rewarding experience. This positive environment can increase motivation and empowerment, which plays a crucial role in effective learning and retention. Well, we've covered a lot during our time together. I hope you find this information useful and can implement some of the ideas to improve your organization's learning and development programs. If you find you love the ideas but need help with implementation, please don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Fill out the form below this webinar and I'll be in touch. Also, feel free to download the summary of this webinar, the questions to ask to identify the reasons why your organization suffers from low learning retention, and the list of learning activities. The link to the interim effect webinar is also below. It's an amazing philosophy of how focusing on your organization's top performers increases the curve and provides a path for midline performers to improve. Thanks for watching. Take care and have an amazing day.